A CARICOM challenge to cut the food import bill. The Challender school is in need of major funding and calls for research into what is driving young Barbadian females to violence.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Good evening to you with the Thursday, October 11th edition of the CBC Evening News. I'm Ryan Broom in our top story. Prime Minister Mia Motley has challenged CARICOM to cut its $4 billion food import bill by 25% within the next 5 years. Ms. Motley made the suggestion while addressing the opening ceremony for the 15th Caribbean Week of Agriculture at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center. Our Kent Jerson reports.
The time for talk must be over as it relates to agriculture in the region.
Prime Minister Mia Motley speaking to government officials from the region, international partners, and other agricultural stakeholders. She explains why there is good reason for urgent action.
That as we go forward in a world fighting the ravages of climate change, that the two most expensive commodities that we face will be food and water.
Against that background, Ms. Motley calls on CARICOM to cut its current $4 billion food import bill by 25%.
I do not accept that it is beyond the capacity of the Ministries of Agriculture, the Ministries of Finance, the Ministries of Trade, the Ministries of Transport of the region to at least work ourselves down to a reduction of 25% of our food import bill in the next 5 years within CARICOM.
She believes this can be achieved with a new approach to agriculture, one that embraces technology and channels some of the region's best and brightest to the sector, among other things. Agreeing there is a need for change, some of the other speakers also suggest it's not just about how much food is produced, but what kind.
The agricultural sector must understand that in today's world, our job is not to produce food, but to produce healthy diets.
Emphasis is placed on this, given its potentially positive impact on the region's high incidence of non-communicable diseases.
Investment in nutrition-sensitive agriculture is one of the most effective strategies to address the epidemic of non-communicable diseases.
The 15th Caribbean Week of Agriculture wraps up tomorrow after 5 days of events, including several meetings, showcases, and technical workshops. Kent Jerson, CBC News.
Thanks, Kent. Well, systems must be put in place to ensure agriculture in the Caribbean can rebound as quickly as possible after major climatic events like hurricanes. This assertion from Executive Director of the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, Barton Clark. He says regional institutions should position themselves to facilitate the farmers' speedy return to production.
The regional institution must be able to, in a position to establish redundancy systems that allow for planting material to be distributed very, very quickly to those farmers. And I'm not talking from a perspective of theory. I'm just reflecting on the fact that in response to the Maria and Dominica, the OECS Secretariat, IECA, and CARDI got together and mobilized material and made it available to the farmers in Dominica so that in 6 weeks' time, they were back in business.
Now, Mr. Clark also wants to see meaningful collaborations and partnerships in that sector.
We want to promote a partnership that will allow us to see real serious cross-border investments, to be able to take advantage of the willingness of the government of Ghana and Suriname and Belize to say, come, there's land for us and things to facilitate the investment that will allow us to resolve the issues impacting upon us in terms of economies of scale, to help us to bring down the cost of food, to make those healthy choices, wise choices in terms of economic issues.
And while agriculture remains an important part of the regional economy, over the past several decades, the sector has declined. This observation from CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque. He went on to explain some of the reasons why.
Fueled in part by the loss of preferential markets and by the drift away from the sector as an attractive labor and investment option. It has also suffered in the competition for limited resources from governments facing severe economic and financial challenges. Every effort is being made, therefore, to raise the profile of agriculture so that it again becomes attractive for investment and for our upcoming generations to view it as a viable opportunity for a secure livelihood.
And Ambassador LaRocque also noted what should and is being done to address the situation.
It is necessary that our agri-food producers adopt modern technologies and that new market opportunities are identified, along with appropriate incentives and policies as we seek to ensure the future viability of our agriculture sector. In keeping with that thrust, the Prime Minister's Subcommittee on the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the CSME, which met here last month under the most able chairmanship of our Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, has recommended to the Conference of Heads of Government that agricultural workers with Caribbean vocational qualifications, the CVQ, be added to the list of categories with respect to the free movement of skills.
The Barbados International Business Association has accepted the challenge from Prime Minister Mia Mottley to quadruple international business in the next 10 years. Speaking at Invest Barbados, BIBA President Julia Hope said their energy is now focused on enhancing and attracting new business.
That's really us looking at ways that we will have to revitalise the sector, and we're able to look at new methods and really take this opportunity, take the challenge as an opportunity to really enhance the business that we're doing.
And Ms. Hope says one sure way to diversify is to tackle the financial technology or fintech market.
We've got some very good and big players here in Barbados on the ground. They enjoy being in Barbados, they like the environment, but we've got a lot of work to do to get up to the standard of some of the other countries who are already playing the game very well. So it's not just, we do need to keep looking at all the jurisdictions and other jurisdictions that we need to work with. And Canada is still a very big market for us. It's not to be discounted, but it's also the products and services that we need to look at, which is driven primarily by the need and then the legislation and the regulatory environment that comes with that. So we are all working extremely hard to foster all of those aims.
In other news, Commerce Minister Dwight Sutherland thinks a credit union bank in Barbados is a good idea. Speaking to the media during a tour of the St. George Farmers Marketing Co-op Society Limited in the Glebe, he said there are benefits to be gained from setting up that facility.
Anything that can offer a lower interest rate than the typical commercial banks to push business in this country, I am all for. And indeed, the cooperatives, most people register with the credit unions because of the lower interest rate and indeed the ease of accessing funds. I am proud of the credit union movement in this country. I don't think that they give away the money, or they still ask you to produce the necessary, guarantees and the necessary assets to ensure that they can recover their money. But what I've seen is that they have given the working class people an opportunity for access to funding, and indeed, I will welcome a credit union bank in this country.
And Mr. Sutherland says the promised trust loan for entrepreneurs is a few steps closer to becoming a reality.
We are very, very close. I think we have one more cabinet meeting, which will be Thursday, and I'm hoping that I can take the final request to our cabinet. We do things by cabinet, and once cabinet gives the go-ahead, I reckon within another 3 weeks of approval, once that is done this week, we should be up and running by the latest mid-November.
The Challender School is in dire need of help. This admission from the Secretary of the School Board, Marcia Brathwaite, as the school sets out to raise $250,000 to complete some much-needed repairs. Our Sharika Griffith reports.
This 300-year-old building at the school's Canefield St. Thomas location once housed classrooms, offices, and the rehabilitation therapy department. However, since the collapse of the roof, the school has had to relocate operations to other buildings, including the garage, the cottage, and the chapel. Chairman Dr. Jennifer Campbell says it's also had an impact on the services offered by the school.
We once offered respite service for persons who want to leave their kids in our care so they can take a much-needed vacation. We've had to stop that. We have also had to curtail our agriculture program for want of funding to fund these programs. The governor of Barbados has been very good in teaching and paying our teachers, but most of the other things we have to ask persons to help us.
Dr. Campbell was speaking during a press launch for the school's fundraising efforts, which it's calling Raise the Roof. Secretary of the board, Marcia Brathwaite, says the school is already planning 2 major fundraising ventures, which are slated for November 17th.
There will be a kids zone at Police Sports Club with face painting, jumping tents, and other activities for the children starting at 5. Following this at 7 p.m. will be the Challender fundraising Raise the Roof charity cricket match, which is billed the Challender Celebrity 11 versus the Guyanese Select 11, which we will beat again this year. The Challender team will be captained by former West Indies player Sir Curtly Ambrose, and the Guyanese team by Ramnaref Sarwan. They already confirmed their availability.
The school caters to 34 students between the ages of 5 and 19 with moderate to severe and profound disabilities. Sharika Griffith, Cbc News.
Well, there's an appeal tonight for authorities to take a closer look at the underlying factors driving many young women to violence. It's coming from founder of I Am a Girl Barbados on International Day of the Girl Child. Our Sharika Griffith reports.
In recent times, there's been an apparent rise in the number of videos circulating involving young women and schoolgirls fighting. For some, it's a source of entertainment, while others condemn the acts of violence. Founder of I Am a Girl Barbados, Alianne Olivier Skeet, says oftentimes we overlook the fundamental issues that happened long before the fight began.
Things like depression and suicidal thoughts and, some of the domestic issues that happen within the household and or within the community that impacts girls and even boys to the point where they might feel like fighting is the only solution, or they're taking out their aggression on the wrong individuals at times. So for us, it's really about helping them to channel those emotions into a more positive direction.
She was speaking to CBC on the sidelines of the 50 More Youth Conference, which brought together students from several private and public secondary schools. The theme for this year is For Youth by Youth, using STEAM to create impact within the community.
Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Now, I know we've heard this acronym for over the past few years in your secondary schools, but we're going to reinvent what that means for us today, and we're going to basically show you the practical side of STEAM today. How can you use it in the everyday sense, and how can you use it to impact your communities, whether at school, whether in Barbados, and or whether in the region?
Ms. Olivier Skeet says the school response this year has been overwhelming. But even though the organization is called I Am a Girl, boys too have a role to play in finding solutions to issues which girls face. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Sharika. Well, that conference was held in association with the U.S. Embassy and the Sagicor Capefield School of Business. And U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, Linda Tagliatella, encouraged students to see each other as allies rather than competitors. She also told them they shouldn't be afraid to fail.
Failure's a good thing. I know that sounds strange, but I want you to know when you go through life, we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. We take for granted the things that go right in life. It's the things that when they don't go exactly the way we planned, that we really sit down and reflect on how could I have done it better? What should we have done differently? How could I have made it a more positive experience? And I think that From that, you grow, you learn, and the next time, you'll do better.
Meantime, representative for the School of Business, Charlotte Thomas, says the university is happy to support a program which could help the region's future leaders.
In 50 years, and I hope in many cases less than, you, the mentees, your children, will be leaders and driving forces behind Barbados, the Caribbean, the world. And if we at the School of Business can have a positive impact on that, starting in this room, on this day, the International Day of the Girl Child, we couldn't be more prouder to do so.
The posting and sharing of video clips on social media of students fighting is worrying children's advocate Faith Marshall Harris. She sees it as a form of exploitation.
Children are supposed to live in a protective zone in the sense that, yes, children will do what is wrong, but it is recognized that they must be given second and third chances. So you really should seek not to publicize the wrongdoings of children. You should seek to correct them, and if you feel that it needs to be brought to the attention of the authorities, send it to the authorities. Forward it to the child care board, to the police or whatever, but to circulate among each other for the purposes of gossip, I think, is not doing the children any good.
Ms. Marshall Harris says she isn't surprised by the level of violence in society today, especially among school children. According to her, before she retired as a magistrate about 6 years ago, all the warning signs were there. Ms. Marshall Harris says what has to be acknowledged first is that the violence among school children does not start with them.
It starts in the home, and then it moves from the home. This is what they grow up in, this is what they perceive, this is what they're accustomed to, and it moves from the home and they take it to school. They take it on the playground, they take it on the school bus, and wherever they congregate. And eventually, of course, it is on the blocks, it is within the community, and the ultimate, of course, is the gun violence. And as I say, it's on a continuum, which somewhere we're going to have to break this cycle.
In other news now, government is increasing the opportunities for Barbadians to become proficient in the use of technology. This is being done through the Community Technological Programs, an initiative first introduced in 2002 by the Community Development Department. The latest was introduced at the Holy Innocents Anglican Church Center in Ashford, St. Thomas. It was officially launched by Minister of Youth and Community Empowerment, Adrian Ford, who explained its objectives.
The primary goals of the 10-week program are to make computer training and internet access more readily available to all citizens of Barbados, to increase and improve the technological literacy of community leaders, and to improve opportunities for social communication. I am advised that the program has trained over 50,000 persons in various information technological applications as it expanded from the original 8 to 20 centers. The Holy Innocents Community Center becomes the 21st.
And priest in charge at Holy Innocents, Reverend Anthony Harewood, welcomes the program.
As a church, it also speaks volumes of our focus on evangelism and outreach, a focus that should move us beyond the understanding of evangelism as standing on the corners and shouting beyond our voices, and actually being able to empower people through positive action, encouragement, and most of all, education, to move from where they are to greater heights.
Efforts to equip the country's differently abled young people for the world of work are bearing fruit. That's according to head of the Challender School's adult training facility, Juliet Cumberbatch. Ms. Cumberbatch says the adult arm of the school is a certified TVET center. It offers Caribbean vocational qualifications in food preparation and cookery, sewing and craft, and woodwork, and is preparing to add another skill area soon.
To date, we have 6 qualifying students gaining CVQ food preparation and cookery level 1, 2 of whom are here with us this morning. Food preparation continues to work on level 2 and should qualify by the end of this school year, while the other skills areas are now starting. It is our intent to reintroduce the skill area of agriculture since we have the space and we are equipped to offer it.
Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, says that institution is in a better position of collecting debt. According to him, countries including Barbados are willing to honor the outstanding monies.
The government of Barbados never lost sight of the fact that this is a national debt. In fact, the government consistently says that while we are challenged to meet this receivable, let it be known that the government of Barbados will not retreat from this matter. We know we owe the university. We have legislated that this is national debt, and it will be settled whenever that is appropriate.
The UWI Vice Chancellor also notes the UWI has appointed Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Timothy Harris, as an emissary to visit contributing countries to ensure the debts are honored. Professor Sir Hilary adds the institution has been even negotiating collecting assets in place of monies.
We are in a position at this moment where government by government, we are working through either a cash injection to pare down the receivables, or there is negotiations around assets, primarily land and other performing assets. So we are in a better position today than we were a year ago or 2 years ago.